Welcome to the Jedi Ranger. I'm JohnBerry555, and today I'm continuing my 10th anniversary reviews of Star Wars Rebels with Season 2, Episode 14, Legends of the Lasat. This episode aired on DisneyXD on February 3rd, 10 years ago in 2016. And so this is a Zeb episode. We learn more about his backstory and about his people. In short, we learned that he was the former captain in the Lasan High Honor Guard, and then there's a prophecy about a planet called Leosan, which is the original homeworld of the Lasat. We learned that at the end of the episode. Zeb, he doesn't believe the legend. He sees it as just a myth, nothing more. But they come across two Lasan refugees who guide them, more or less, a former member of the High Honor Guard, and also an old lady who basically is a prophet, for lack of a better term. And we learn about the Lasan view of the Force, the Ashla. And that might sound familiar because in some old Legends books they talk about the Ashla and the Bogan for the light and dark side of the Force. Quite interesting and all that, but basically the prophecy, Zeb doesn't believe it, but he's instrumental in actually getting them to Lirasar, and they discover a whole planet with the Sat, because that's the original home world. And a big part of this is very important, is because Zeb blames himself for the Sat falling to the Empire, for the genocide that the Empire completed. He felt like he failed them for not being able to, as captain of the High Honor Guard, being able to protect them. And through this story, through this episode, he learns that basically he still has a more of destiny. And that there's still his people, his culture still exists in the form. And I think that's very important for his character. And that actually comes way back full circle to the final episode of Star Wars Rebels in the epilogue. Normally I'm trying not to jump too far ahead in my retro reviews, but as part of the prophecy that is revealed is that it talks about the child, the warrior, and the fool, and how basically one person could be all three at different times in their lives, etc. But in terms of this specific context, the Callus was also at one in the prophecy the warrior, but he's also the fool, probably at his own time. But Zeb was also the fool in this episode, but also the warrior in this episode, especially because he wanted to be the warrior, so he was a child then too. But does that come full circle? Because Callus was the Imperial in charge of the Imperial genocide of Lasan. And at the very end of Rebels, he gets taken to Lasan and learns that he didn't kill them all, that he essentially he got a second chance, for forgiveness among them. And Callus, he made amends, It wasn't just like, oops, I did wrong, I'm sorry. He's like, oh man, why was I supporting the Empire for all this time? Joins the Rebels, becomes a spy for the Rebels, and that only once his cover is blown does he actually go and fight within the rebellion, because he was a spy beforehand. But the point is that we'll talk more about Through Imperial Eyes. I think is going to be a good option to really talk about Callus's story. But in this episode, the fact that Callus was identified by the wise woman, whose name I forgot because I didn't write it down, to be the warrior for his role in the prophecy, indicates to me that they considered way back here that eventually Callus would join the rebellion, would betray the Empire. It makes me think that's what they consider, given how everything goes and what they did at the end. Or they just thought, you know what, let's tie up the rest of Callus and Zeb's story in a nice little bow, which is also what I did. I bring that up because, while normally, like I mentioned earlier, don't talk about future things, the way this episode lays a seed that probably none of us really considered and we can only see in retrospect is worth discussing. And to discuss it, we have to bring up the events that we saw after this episode. But this episode, like I said, is really good. There's also Hondo Onaka in here, and he also, I think, plays the role of the fool at several points in the episode as well. But in short, he contacts Ezra to help transport the two Lasan refugees, but he betrays them to the Empire for the reward, but because he knew Ezra and crew would be able to rescue them. Then he betrays them again to the Empire, but this time he contacts them and says, hey, the Empire is coming. How close is it? That's the boat. He does that, and then he helps the Empire track them. But it's like, he is such Hondo Ohnaka in all of this. But there's also a moment where Ezra tells him that you were never going to get your finder's fee. And he's like, he learned so fast. Like, he's proud of Ezra for ripping him off. Which is actually a very Hondo thing. And that's why we love Hondo as a character, because he just is Hondo. The other day there was a post somewhere online. It was a share from, like, I think it was a YouTube video of a Reddit post of a Tumblr post or something like that. You know how those things get online. But basically, all the crazy stuff that happens in the Clone Wars, Hondo Ohnaka with his own bullet point, no context. And that perfectly describes Hondo as a character and his role. Yeah, he helps the rebels, but he also betrays the rebels. He helps the Empire, but he also betrays the Empire. It's just what he does, because he's all about that profit. But really, the idea that he was proud of Ezra so quickly, in his own words, learning that lesson of not paying the fine fee or ripping him off, is like, it is gold, and really does serve to show why he's such a fun character. Honestly, I should do a Hondo Ohnaka appreciation video sometime. That's beyond the scope of this video, but I just loved his role in this episode. I also love too how Ezra and Ken help with the Force to provide strength to Zeb doing all this. Not the counseling also too, I think a little bit, but also like when Zeb was using his bow staff, like the ancients were so a different configuration, they put their hands on him. And I interpreted that as channeling the Force, helping channel the Force through him so he could fulfill the prophecy and direct the ghost to Liu Sansu. Basically a collapsed star, more or less. Basically a very bad space phenomena. So yeah, there's a lot of great moments here and there. And this is a really good Zeb episode because we learn his backstory. We learned that he never told anyone on the Ghost crew his backstory. Like, at least Hera probably can as well. At least knew a little more about Sabine's backstory, even though she didn't share it with a lot of people. At least Hera knew. Not even Hera knew Zeb's backstory. They just knew he was a Lasat. That was it. They didn't know any of it. But now they do know. And also, with them learning, you can also see maybe a bit of an opening of Zeb. He believes in his culture's legends and myths again, because he lost that. So it's a very fitting episode for Zeb, and we just get that great character development for him. And like I mentioned, he learns that he isn't one of the last of the Lasat. He learns that there are more of them, and that there are survivors, that there's a whole planet for them, the original home world, the original home planet. He learns that, and I think that gives him hope, gives him comfort. In Rogue One, we are first, production-wise, introduced to the line, rebellions are built on hope. Last said by Jen, who heard it from Cassian, but Cassian heard it from a bellhop on Gorman. And what does Zeb gain in this episode? Hope. And I think that makes him a better rebel for it. Of course, that's going to have to be seen in how the episode folds out. I know how it folds out. Of course I do. But I just wanted to bring that up because, yeah, we didn't know that line at the time this episode was airing too. It didn't. So, yeah, but the thing I really do want to convey is that Zeb is now in a better place after the events of this episode. And that's very important character development for him. Yeah, he's still going to give Ezra a hard time. He's still going to give Chopper a hard time. That's not going to change. But overall, he's just in a better place. And when we get to the episode where him and Kaz are stranded on that ice planet, if not, or the ice moon of Geonosis, if not for this episode, would he have accidentally recruited Kallus to the rebellion? I don't know. But this episode, I think, is really important in making that happen. And we'll discuss that a bit more when we get to that episode. But in the meantime, let me know what did you think of Legends of the Lasat. The comment section is wide open, and I hope to see you next week where I talk about episode 15, The Call. Thank you for watching my video. I do hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please be sure to give this video a like and share. Also, consider subscribing to my channel to stay up to date on all my latest content. In the meantime, thank you for watching, and as always, have a good day, a good night, wherever you are. May the force be with you always.